Bienvenidos. Welcome to our celebration of Dia de los Muertos, a presentation by Juntos Art Association. Hi, I'm Emily Guerra, a journalist and radio announcer for KRWG Public Media, covering music and news in southern New Mexico, West Texas, and the Mexican border. Juntos Art Association, founded in 1985 in El Paso, Texas, nurtures creative expression across our transnational region. As featured in the 2020 book publication, Icons and Symbols of the Borderland, Art from the U.S.-Mexico Crossroads by Diana Molina. Artist and creative director of Juntos, she is currently the exhibiting artist at the City of Austin's Mexican-American Cultural Center with Dos Equis, Timeline at the Crossroads. Dos Equis, a 2020 retrospective featuring a woman's journey. Hello, Diana.
Hello, Emily. Great to see you and the virtual audience. Thanks for joining.
Good. Thank you. Together with Diana, we will host today's remembrance, honoring our ancestors and departed family, friends, and loved ones. We will explore the meaning behind the rituals, stories, and symbolism of Dia de los Muertos on our border, Nuestra Frontera, with short films, photography, art, music, ofrenda making, and installations by Juntos artists. And we're going to start off with Frontera Boogaloo from El Paso with original compositions combining cumbia and Afro-Caribbean beats with the song Linda Fronteriza from their latest CD release, Respirar.
Tienes para mí
When the Spanish conquistadores first encountered the Aztec and other Mesoamerican civilizations in 1519, they find a 3,000-year-old ritual that mocked death. Dia de los Muertos starts with rituals that connect with Mictecacíhuatl, the goddess known as Lady of the Dead.
Skulls featured in ceremonies symbolize death and rebirth.
Here in Mexico City, a danza azteca represents the skulls in contemporary dance tied with the very roots of the celebration. They use conch shells and feathers and elements of nature that go back to those original celebrations, connected with the harvest, connected with decay, the four seasons, death, and yet rebirth and life again. Calacas dance and sing in honor of the deceased. It is something that we share in parades and celebrations. Here we begin with a series of images with Viva la Vida in Austin, Texas.
The Marigold Parade of City of Albuquerque.
It's tied to the cempasúchil, the marigold flower. They are native to the New World and they're sacred flowers of the Aztecs. Again, we return to those origins of the Native American roots who attributed magical, religious, and medicinal properties. And now they are used to decorate the household altars and to celebrate All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. In Albuquerque, it is that tie with the marigold and the natural world and the life-giving connection and the symbolism. Here, the theme in this particular parade that I attended, tied with water, tied with the life-giving force and the environmental concern, the sacredness of water in a region where our rainfall has been lower than ever and the natural world that is suffering due to environmental concerns. So it's a way that the human experience is through parade and creative expression, actually on the body, on the faces, depicts this relationship to water and nature. And here, loteria signs, la rosa, sin espinas, without thorns, el mundo sin fronteras, the world without borders, el sol sale para todos, the sun shines for all. So, and now they're also employing placards like la mano protectora, the protective hand, and here a banner against domestic violence. So it's not only environmental issues, but social issues and, other creative means of expression. Here we continue with more photos. Marigold Parade.
And now there's the altars.
Yes, the altars that memorialize the dead and also The marigolds, the cempasúchil, is used in the altars with candles, food, drink, and images that commemorate the beloved. I've taken pictures of various altars over the years. That's with the parades that have the same elements of commemoration. And here's a funky example, more vivid and bright, and then with traditional images. But now I turn to a commemoration of community, a community altar in commemoration of the victims of the August 3rd, 2019 massacre in El Paso, Texas, at the Walmart store. Here below you see the El Paso Strong messages as the Frontera community came together with candles, with flowers, paying their respects with crosses, with the names of the victims, messages, own personal messages. How do we process it? You know, different people, the community processing, artists processing this tragedy. Here I turn to two posters by Juntos artist Antonio Castro, also speaking to gun control. Also this image by the poster by Jacob Munoz that is in memory of the victims. He lists the many victims' names within the symbolism of the rosary with hope, perseverance, and reverence. And again, the El Paso Strong message. So it is about processing loss for all that we've lost in our border community.
And now let's go on to a short film, La Catrina, directed by Ilana Lapid, Creative Media Institute of New Mexico State University Associate Professor. And La Catrina is also produced by Diana Molina with Juntos Art Association. Let's talk about the film and where it came from. Why did you start it? When did you begin to process that?
So it was in 2015 that I was approached by my friend Diana Molina, who was putting together an exhibit, Icons and Symbols of the Borderlands, and asked that I make a film with her that would fit into this exhibit and that would explore the myth of La Catrina and be set in the borderlands and have agricultural themes. And so we put our heads together and we came up with a story that is really a parable about loss and the journey towards healing. It's set against the backdrop of the harvest, and it tells the story of a woman whose husband, a migrant worker, both of them are migrant workers, died in his journey across the border, and she's contending with her grief, and it sends her on a journey that ultimately leads her into the underworld to confront herself as the face of death, as La Catrina. And in confronting herself, she's faced with the choice: does she stay in her grief or does she move on? And then so it's a timeless story that was a great joy to make. We filmed it in the agricultural landscape around Anthony, and we worked with non-actors, Cristobal Rivera, a beekeeper, as well as many other things, Priscilla Garcia, who was working on a farm at the time, who's also a dancer. And we came together and created this short film that's 10 minutes long, that is very deeply personal to me and one of the favorite projects that I've ever worked on. And it's exciting that we continue to share it as part of the exhibit, Icons and Symbols of the Borderlands.
And how is La Catrina part of the ancient Aztec culture, Mictecatithuatl? What does La Catrina mean?
Well, La Catrina's roots come from the Aztec death goddess, Mictecatithuatl. And in the legend, the goddess served the same purpose as La Catrina does today, to honor and protect those who have passed, to symbolize the relationship with death, especially for the Mexican community and those who have celebrate those traditions. As Ilana said, the making of the film came together with in a very spontaneous manner once we had the concept. And as the film addresses loss and coping with loss, Orlando Cedillo was involved in the film in actually painting the Catrina's face on Priscilla and with a lot of the settings. And that was one of the last projects he worked on before his passing. He was also a Juntos artist, and he's commemorated in the altar behind me. And just in the very creative process, I think, this ties to that spirit of La Catrina. I'd also like to add that the look was conceptualized by the lithographer and printer, Jose Guadalupe Posada, who is said to have designed the first Catrina skull in the early 1900s.
And how have things changed since you first made that film in 2015? How relevant is it today?
I recently rewatched the film and it was interesting to me that I found it resonant in a whole new way, given the circumstances that we are all living in right now with COVID and the unprecedented amount of uncertainty and the choice that we are always presented with of what do we make of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. Sometimes we can't choose what happens to us, but we can always choose how we're going to respond. And in La Catrina, after our protagonist, our heroine, goes on the journey, and without any dialogue, because the film does not include any spoken dialogue, only text on the screen in English and Spanish, much like a picture book. But through her arrangements of flowers at the end into these flower mandalas, she conveys her desire to move forward and embrace life, even with the pain that she's just been through. And I think that the message of choosing life and choosing love and choosing creativity, even in the face of uncertainty, even in the face of death, is a very relevant and resonant message right now.
Very similar to a celebration of Dia de los Muertos altars that are done every year. Is that correct?
That's
right. Well, it ties so closely to the cycle of life and death. They're intertwined, and with La Catrina, resilience in continuity, and finding that way to process and go through the sorrow and move forward.
And how do you intend to move forward with La Catrina for the future?
La Catrina is part of this exhibit, Icons and Symbols of the Borderland, and it travels with the exhibit. It's also been in festivals and in showcases and screened around the world, which has been really exciting for us. And I continue to share it in those ways. And also it's available online for anybody who would like to look for it and find it online on Vimeo, La Catrina.
mi mano y hundo el arado en la tierra. Hace años que llevo en ella. ¿Cómo no estar agotado? Vuelan mariposas, cantan grillos, la piel se me pone negra y el sol brilla, brilla, brilla. El sudor me hace surcos, yo hago surcos a la tierra sin parar. Afirmo bien la esperanza cuando pienso en la otra estrella. Nunca es tarde, me dice ella. La paloma volará. Vuelan mariposas, cantan grillos, la piel se me pone negra y el sol brilla, brilla, brilla. El sudor me hace surcos, yo hago surcos a la tierra sin parar. Nunca es tarde, me dice ella, la paloma volará, volará, volará. Como yugo de apretar, tengo el puño esperanzado, porque todo cambiará. Nunca es tarde, me dice ella, la paloma volará, volará, volará. Como yugo de apretar, tengo el puño esperanzado, envuelve mi mano y hundo el arado en la tierra. Hace años que llevo en ella. ¿Cómo no estar agotado? Vuelan mariposas, cantan grillos, la piel se me pone negra y el sol brilla, brilla, brilla. El sudor me hace surcos, yo hago surcos a la tierra sin parar.
And our next performer, Amalia Mondragon. She's a Latin Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist from the El Paso, Texas, La Union, New Mexico, Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, Frontera, the border. And her genre of music is ranchera, and she'll be performing Te Diré, I Told You.
Siento la vida tan seca, pienso que no puedo más. Canto hacia el cielo y no escucha nadie nada y sigue igual, cantando los pajarillos, cantando a mi alrededor. Yo puesta en un paraíso y sin nadie, ay, qué dolor. Y te diré que no pienso en ti, te diré que no vives en mí, te diré que no tomo por ti, te diré. Y te diré que no pienso en ti, te diré que no vives en mí, te diré que no lloro por ti. Hoy te diré siento en el alma un vacío, uno que no puedo llenar. Tus alas se han extendido hacia el mundo para volar, y aunque tu amor no regrese, yo siempre te calmaré, porque el amor de mi vida fue lo que fue en el ayer. Y te diré que no pienso en ti, te diré que no vives en mí, te diré que no tomo por ti, te diré. Y te diré que no pienso en ti, te diré que no vives en mí, te diré que no lloro por ti. Oh
now images from the festival of Dia de los Muertos in El Paso, Texas in 2019. We're going to start our artist studio visit, Dia de los Muertos, by Juntos Art Association, with Cesar Martinez from Laredo, Texas. He's based in San Antonio, and he's been in the major figure in the Chicano art movement for many, many years. Hello, Cesar. Tell us about your art.
My work evolved over time, went in many different directions, and still am going in many different directions. I've pretty much covered the interests of Chicanos or Mexican Americans over the years, the culture, a bit of the politics and the area, and so on and so forth. I think that I started with started being, I guess, noticed by the art venues like museums and galleries, when I started my Pachuco series. But that was basically just something that I grew up with. They were the guys on the corner, and they used to hang out. And so it occurred to me, what would it look like? And that's pretty much how a lot of my work starts out. What would it look like if I did this or that or the other? And so I wanted to see how Pachuco or Vato would look as subject matter for art. And so then I got going, and I have been doing it since then. I started way out as a professional, probably in the mid-'70s, early '70s, and I'm still going.
Tell us about this piece, and it's what was your passion in putting this together?
I have always been very interested in woodcuts, the medium itself. It's a very basic way of making prints, relief prints, and I was pretty much influenced by the work of Gauguin, especially, but there's other artists, some Mexican Americans like Manuel Hernandez, who did some wonderful things, and that I was influenced by, and I wanted to do some myself. And so this is one of the very first woodcuts that I did in the mid-'70s. I did several. You'll be seeing some come up in this presentation, but this particular one, I don't think I really did it with the Dia de los Muertos in mind, but it's a good fit because that is what the Dia de los Muertos is all about. And I kind of pretended that this was some kind of pyramid, and there's a corpse, somebody buried there, and it's in a fetal position, as some indigenous people bury their dead. And there's all kinds of things that we say about death, that when we're near death, ya tiene una pata en el pozo, or in English, when you're dead, you're pushing up the daisies. And I think that this particular piece has something to do with that, because assuming that you're buried, your body decomposes and becomes nutrients for plants. sort of like fertilizer, and that is the very basic premise for this piece. You have the esqueleto, then you have the roots all over it. I guess transferring the nutrients from the corpse into the plant itself, and the plant itself is doing very, very well. And I kind of situated the whole thing in both day and night. I think that we think of nighttime as having something to do with being dead, sometimes the big sleep they call it. So I think that is why I wanted to have both daylight and nighttime in this particular piece. And it's also one of the first pieces that landed in some of the first major shows that came around in the late 70s. And so that's pretty much the story of this particular piece.
So your medium on this one, on the last one, the woodcuts. So you have different mediums. Coming up now, we have a different medium. Talk about that one.
This I believe is called Flores para los Muertos.
Yeah, the Flores para los Muertos is, I think I heard the line in a movie. Well, that's what it stuck with me. I'm trying to remember the movie, maybe something like Under the Volcano or something like that, a long time ago. But anyway, the line stuck with me. Flores para los Muertos, very simple. And so when I got interested in doing something about Dia de los Muertos, I came up with this idea, and it's one of the original pieces from the Serape series when I was mixing in imagery along with the Serape configuration itself. And so this is very simple to understand. At the top, you see some cemetery statuary like angels and crosses and obelisks and tombs, and that was pretty much influenced from the cemetery in Laredo that I used to visit when I was young. I was always fascinated by it, and the imagery that you see there came directly from some pictures that I took at the Laredo Cemetery, the old part of the cemetery. At the bottom, you see the typical cempasúchil marigolds that are pretty much the official flower of Dia de los Muertos. And so that's pretty much it. I did another version of this one. Why don't you bring it out? This one is in lighter colors, and I think I concentrated more on the calaveras themselves. And there's also the marigold, the flowers, cempasúchil, and the calaveras, and that's pretty much it. It's also in the form of a serape in the central part of the picture, Mexican.
So is this an acrylic, a watercolor, or the Serape series?
Yeah, the Serape series is a long-standing series that started out from the early 80s, I think. And it has to do with a very early influence that I had. This is an abstract American artist by the name of Gene Davis, and he was known for doing paintings that consisted of sequences of stripes. I remember I was in college at that time, and I remember thinking that to me it looked like a serape, and it was kind of like an epiphany, but a delayed with a delayed reaction, because at the time I did not even know what an epiphany was. But years later, I realized that I was reacting to a piece of contemporary art from a cultural standpoint. To me, it looked like a serape, and so that stayed in my mind. And eventually, I started out on a serape series, and it's still going on.
And these are in acrylic or oil?
Most of my paintings are acrylics. These are acrylics on canvas.
So now let's move to Vacilando.
Yes, why don't you bring it out? Vacilando is also another woodcut from from the mid-70s. And here I have death itself, La Calavera, kind of playing around, messing around with us, like I'm coming around or whatever, tweaking its nose at us. And like in the other woodcut, I have both daytime and nighttime. And the nighttime is in the form of I guess, a blind that you pull down over your window. And that is where I decided to put my the moon and the stars. And it's like the death is telling us, I'm going to pull that blind down and you'll be gone. And kind of just messing around. That's what that piece is all about. And I think that there's a lot of humor involved in Dia de los Muertos.
And what's this piece?
This particular piece is called Lola La Llorona, and it's about the great Mexican ranchero singer Lola Beltran. And she was very emotive when she emoted a lot when she was singing, and she was known to cry when singing a sad song, a sad ranchera. And those of you who are movie buffs might remember that it was her song, Soy Infeliz, that was sort of the theme song for Pedro Almodovar's movie, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. But anyway, what I have here is basically a calavera based on Lola Beltran with her braided hair and everything, big earrings. And she's crying while she's singing. And you see tantan there. The tantan is usually something that characterizes the end of a Mexican song, and then the end of it is but that's also another allusion to death itself. Ya se acabó, tan tan, vámonos, vámonuski.
Vámonuski.
So that is what this piece is all about.
And then you did a colored version?
This is a colored version that I decided to do, and actually it's not a real woodcut version in color. I did this in the computer because I was simply playing around with it. I wanted to see what would it look like if I did some colors, and this is what I came up with. It's the same thing, same woodcut. Long time ago, I took an interest in bullfighting. I was really overcome by the romanticism of it, something that is not there anymore. Now there's a lot of anti-feeling, and I have to say, for good reason. But anyway, I became obsessed with bullfighting when I was very young. I must have been like 13 or 14 years old, and even wanted to be a bullfighter, and I even participated in it at a time or two. Up until recent times, but that's another story. But I wanted to do a calavera torera because I had seen Jose Guadalupe Posada do some bullfighters as calaveras, and so I did my own version. It's kind of appropriate for the calavera torera to be following the one that we saw having to do with Lola Beltran, because Lola Beltran in her life married not one, but two matadores, two Mexican matadores, Jose Ramon Tirado, and then later Alfredo Leal, who also became a major actor, especially in telenovelas. But anyway, the actual inspiration for this particular calavera was a Spanish bullfighter by the name of Juan Belmonte, who had a very heavy protruding jaw, and so that's my Juan Belmonte calavera torera.
Is that another woodcut?
This is not a woodcut, but the technique is the same, but it's a linoleum print. Linoleum is a lot easier to cut than wood, because it doesn't have a grain, so you can cut in any direction without breaking it. So anyway, those are technical things.
The jaguar. Tell us, this is very important.
The jaguar is, the title of this is Huizache Jaguar, and the reason for that is that I created this as a cover for a literary magazine out of the University of Houston in Victoria. A friend of mine who is a very well-known writer, Dagoberto Gil, was the one who was one of the originators of the idea of a literary journal called Huizache. And he asked me if I would like to do a cover. I had already done a cover for one of his books and also some illustrations. So he's a good friend. And I said, well, okay, sure. And then I asked him, well, have any ideas what would be appropriate for a cover? And he said, how about a jaguar? And then he gave me a spiel about the significance of jaguars in Mesoamerican cultures, which I already knew. And then, by the way, he said the school mascot is a jaguar, and sure enough, they have a very beautiful bronze sculpture of a jaguar there at the University of Houston in Victoria. So anyway, so I decided, okay, I'm going to do a jaguar, and that's that. And immediately what came to mind is that I had seen a drawing for a Mesoamerican mural, although it was unattributed. I've been told that it is at Teotihuacan. It's not a mural, it's not painted yet, it's just a drawing in black and white of a jaguar. And I thought that it was a wonderful thing, and I based my jaguar on that design, including the spots and everything. But my idea, an idea that emerged, and this happens quite a bit in my work. Sometimes I set out to do something, and then ideas about what I'm doing start creeping in, and themes and thoughts come through my mind. And I remembered that reading that way back a long time ago, there used to be jaguars in South Texas. And the last one was killed by hunters, unfortunately, in 1940. Since then, none have been seen. And so this piece is kind of like wishful thinking. It would be great if we could bring back the jaguar to South Texas, but it's a long shot. And then with that stupid fence, that's a deterrent, very bad situation. But anyway, it became the jaguars, bringing back the jaguar, it became more like about saving the ocelots, which there's a good few in South Texas, but there's an effort to preserve them. And so I guess you're asking, what does this have to do with Dia de los Muertos? Well, we think of Dia de los Muertos as a thing that people do, but everybody dies, everything dies, including animals. And in this case, it was worse than that, because it was extinction. And when I did this piece, of course, I introduced many elements that suggest South Texas, Huizache tree, mesquite thickets, nopales, a lot of dried grass, a windmill, and I guess the symbol for death or extinction are the vultures, or the auras, as we call them in South Texas. They're also called sopilotes, that are circling around in the area of the windmill. And so I guess what started out as a simple cover for a journal became a statement about, an ecological statement about what's going on in South Texas.
Definitely looks like South Texas, and those buzzards getting ready to come to the jaguar.
Well, it's certainly a strong metaphor for the current efforts to save the ocelot.
Yeah, it became a metaphor for saving the ocelot. There's a lot of them well, not a lot of them, but a good few that, and there's a big effort going on to save the ocelot, and I'm all for that.
And this particular piece, I will add that it came the cover to the icons and symbols of the Borderland book. So
It's part of the cover then.
It's the back cover.
The
Yeah.
back cover.
Well, thank you for the commercial break.
Yeah. And actually, we will end with that. That is the last piece of art. Thank you so much for the
So,
insight to your.
thank you, Cesar Martinez. Thank you. And now we go on to Andy Villarreal, artist, native of San Antonio, Texas, with a passion for Mesoamerican indigenous cultures. He's a professor at the University of Incarnate Word in San Antonio, teaching drawing and painting for the last 17 years, but teaching in various places for over 30 years. His work has been exhibited internationally. Hello, Andy.
Hello, good morning. How are y'all doing?
Good. Tell us about your works. What different types of mediums?
I work in various types of media. I work in oil. I work in acrylic. I do collages, drawings, prints, sculpture, mixed media pieces. I work on copper as well.
And what has brought you your passion for Mesoamerican indigenous cultures? We're starting out with this blue jaguar. Tell us about that.
Well, I've been working in this series for about 20 years. I have a very strong passion for the Mexican culture, and I'm very much influenced by the indigenous cultures in Mexico and so on. In terms of the jaguar, the image that's up on the screen right now is a triptych, one of two triptychs that I did a couple years ago. And it's called the Blue Jaguars Transport the Warriors to the Battle. And for me, the jaguar is a very powerful symbol that I use almost in every work that I do. This information comes from my imagination. I've been to the Yucatan lots of times. I've been to lots of the different architectural sites. And when I go down there, I'm totally inspired by the culture and the history of those places. And then that's what really is the stimulus for me creating this work that you're seeing here today. So, like I said, the jaguar is a very powerful image in the culture. And for me, I use it in association with individuality and strength. I use it in terms of its reference to royalty. I use it sometimes in reference to fertility. Sometimes I use it in reference to the underworld. So it has lots of different associations that is very interesting to me, and so on.
We will move to the second triptych here. How many years between your creation of the first and the second series?
I believe there was, I think there was 1 year in between the two triptychs. And they were both exhibited in Icons and Symbols show, I think at 5 different museums. So I was very honored to be included in those exhibitions. But what you have here is, again, the jaguars are taking these kings and the warriors are walking beside them and they're going to battle, basically is what it is. It's a visual narration of that event that I'm trying to create here.
Very spectacular, colorful, brilliant. I remember it was shown at the Centro de Artes for the first time along the main wall that faced the market square, and it was just fabulous to have them all showing together.
Is that in San Antonio?
San Antonio, city of San Antonio. Here's a detail. Tell me more about the details here. This looks like a woman warrior on the jaguar.
Yes, that's a woman god on that jaguar, and she's taking her place. The warriors are protecting her. She's leading her army into battle. So the blue to me is a very powerful color, and I use it symbolically, as well as the ray of yellow around the outside edge of the jaguar. It's like to me, it's spirit that's guiding the energy of these people moving in a certain direction towards the battle and stuff.
So the blue symbolizes energy to you?
The blue symbolizes strength, and the energy is the intensity of the blue, but it's also the yellow-orange color that's around the edge of the jaguar. That signifies for me its energy, and it's like a ghost of a jaguar. It's spiritual basically, as well as a tangible form and so on.
Now we'll move on to this other piece. This was actually the first piece that we first included at the Centennial Museum.
Yes.
At the University of Texas, El Paso. And tell us a little bit about this piece.
Okay. I started working in copper 10 years ago, and I'm always looking for different media to work with so I don't, get into a comfort zone. So I thought, well, why don't I work with copper? And I'm not a printmaker. A lot of times when some people that are printmakers, they use copper as one of their media, but I thought copper is a very beautiful natural material. So I went out, found a place that sold it, and I got some small pieces first. I did some studies, and I said, this is going to be cool because it was something very new to me. So I was trying to carry over, it's all the same theme, trying to carry over the theme in a different scale and a different type of media. So I use different chemicals to make some of the marks that are there. I scratch into the metal. The metal's very beautiful. It's very soft, and it tarnishes very easy, and it can be damaged very easy. So you have to be very careful with it. And so as you put the chemical on the media, on the copper, it gives a certain kind of a mark, and the more you mess with it, it gives you a different kind of mark. So it's a combination of painting with the media. It's a combination of scratching into it with printing tools, and as well as other media. I use permanent markers, I use oil paint, and I use a variety of different things.
So
How long did it take you to do this?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Emily.
No, I was going to ask him how long it took him to do this artwork, this piece.
People always ask me that question, how long it takes to do something, and I have no idea what they think my answer is going to be. This piece is 3 feet by 3 feet, which is a small piece for me. And I think this was one of the very first ones that I did after I did the small study. I probably did it in about a week, maybe, if that long. I work very, very fast with a lot of intensity and excitement when I work. I make decisions very quick. But I was also learning about the thing as I went along. I had a basic idea what it is. It's a jaguar, and it's looking at his reflection in the water with the pyramid behind it. There's palm trees with monkeys on there. And so there's different kinds of mind symbols and motifs around the outside edge of the composition and so on. So these types of works. So this tail of the jaguar, I turned it into a serpent as well and stuff. So it's exciting because the piece is constantly changing with the light, with the weather. It tarnishes, I polish it, it tarnishes, I polish it. And so it's very, very difficult to, it never stays the same. It's constantly changing. So that for me is interesting also.
Another question, somebody was to purchase a piece in copper. How do you take care of it? You said that it keeps changing. You polish it and changing. Should you be polishing your artwork?
No, you shouldn't polish it. After it tarnishes, it should stay like that. It's part of the aging process. I have polished it for exhibitions, but I will never polish it again. Sometimes No, it doesn't. It needs to change. A painting this painting's 10 years old now, and we look at a Renaissance painting that's 600 years old. It should have tarnished and weathered. The varnish yellowed over a period of time. And this, the aging process is the tarnishing and stuff. So it looks very different in every kind of lighting situation, whether it's natural light coming in or spotlights that are positioned just perfect on the piece and stuff.
Well, this work on the jaguar is a beautiful homage to the most incredible, amazing creature, which is now extinct in Texas and along the border region where it roamed, Arizona. There are certainly a few sightings that have come up in Arizona, but as far as what we've lost, that is so tragic.
Right.
The spirit of your work encapsulates the spirit of that magnificent creature. And I know it was the inspiration to our Save the Wildlife Art and Ecology project, where we also had masks. This is a mask by Andy that also speaks to that, where we had the ocelot and other masks to commemorate the animals and raise awareness to the wildlife we're losing, their importance in our ecosystem. And Andy, you certainly have represented the jaguar in a fabulous way. Thank you so much for speaking to us about your artwork, and we look forward to seeing more. The next two images are related to modern day environmental issues and the labor force that is subject to the conditions.
And that image is called Cuello Azul, a blue-collar worker. Says Oscar Moya, the artist, was born in Mexico City. He immigrated to the U.S. in 1971, and he worked as a laborer and migrant worker from San Antonio to Illinois. And this is an image of himself, a self-image of him working as a laborer with a gas mask, with working with border issues and the working class aesthetics.
Well, it's certainly a very, very powerful self-portrait.
Yes, as he said, Cuello Azul, he calls that Spanglish, a blue collar, but it represents a blue collar worker. And then we're going to go on to another gas mask, which is Petrocuatl, Aztec god del fin del mundo, with Celia Alvarez Munoz, the artist, and she has this book on the gas mask on her book called Obras. And she said that this she had done with the traveling catalog exhibition Chicano Codices back in the 90s. The god represents the petroleum industry and wears a feathered gas mask which resonates with our present global warming situation and current pandemic. And you can find more of her works and information from the artleaguehouston.org. Celia Alvarez Munoz.
Now we turn to images, to installation pieces that are also part of the traveling exhibit by Wayne Hilton, El pájaro nunca muere y la mariposa.
The bird never dies and the butterfly.
Yes, and these pieces were created from recycled items and scraps that he put together. You see the recurring use of the feathers, both in, by a number of artists. This piece is La Mariposa, the butterfly, but also representing, depicting La Catrina. This particular piece includes old plates, old fabrics, old beads. Here's some more details. Rosaries. Very striking.
Quite a unique piece. Very unique.
And now we turn to another depiction of La Muerte, San Sebastiana, by Delilah Montoya.
Delilah Montoya, photography professor at the University of Houston in Texas. Thank you for joining us. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, well, thank you for having me here.
And Diana Molina is on with us.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Diana. It's
Hello.
good seeing you.
Well, tell us what inspired you to make San Sebastiana and how you went about it.
Well, what I was thinking about at that time was the ideas of the malcriada, just bad girls. And I was beginning to think, like, who would be the baddest of the bad girls out there? And that's when I came up with the idea of Sebastiana, Doña Sebastiana, who is death, right? She's the calaca and the little cart up in northern New Mexico. And I thought, well, that makes her pretty badass, actually. Right? She has the ability to grab souls and stop life and all of that. And I thought, well, and then I began to think about the stories about Doña Sebastiana, how my mother had told me that she never really wanted to be death, and that God had to convince her to do that. And then I began to think about how, like, if she saw herself as a doña, I bet she didn't think of herself as being like a skeleton in careta, right? That in her mind, she probably saw herself as this like flaming beauty. And but then when we look at her, we think of her as being a skeleton, a calaca. So she could never quite understand why people ran from her. So I was kind of going on that kind of like premise, and I thought it would be really interesting to form that character. And what would that character look like? What is the character of a woman who has, such an understanding of herself that she is ready to barter with God? Because in the story she does. She barters with God because she does not want the job. She doesn't want people to run from her. She doesn't want people to be afraid of her. Right. And so then what God had to do was convince her that she was the right person for the job. And so I decided, like, what would that look like? What would that story look like? And so that's why, you see Doña Sebastiana, or in this case, San Sebastiana, because I began to think about, I always overthink everything. Okay. I just do. And so I began to think of her as being like over the top female. So much over the top that we question whether or not she's actually female, right? Because I think of the name of Sebastiana or Sebastian as being this male figure that is like shot through arrows, shot through with arrows, and is, one of these figures where, you see him being used a lot within queer theory. Right. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of like bridge through that and kind of break through all of that. So anyway, that's what San Sebastiana is all about. My mother told me she's not a san, she's a doña.
And you made her quite a person.
I said, well, I'm going to turn her into a san.
Yeah, and what is the connection to San Sebastiana, to the overall program thing that we have today going on, Dia de los Muertos?
The connection is that she's the person who takes the souls, right? So she's the calaca, she's the Catrina, who's gathering the souls for God, right? And she's very much an important person in the passing of life, right? The other thing too is I began to think about Doña Sebastiana as being somebody who liked gossip. So she was like one of these perfect people to be at the deathbeds, because she could stop the death in order to get the story, right? And so, there's that whole thing with the deathbed confessions. And that was one of the things that I thought, like, maybe I'd go on and then she'd have all these deathbed confessions that she would go through. I could just see like this whole like character building this whole story around all these deathbed confessions that she comes across. And she's very satirical. She uses metaphor a lot. She uses, in order to describe things. Yeah. So, yeah. And that's Doña Sebastiana.
And how does that relate to our culture today and contemporary life, with the aspirations of women and all the history and the reality of it all?
Right. Well, the thing is that I think if we look back at history and we look back at the women in our family, they've always been knew what they wanted, right? And knew how to go about getting what they wanted. And they were always the people that held everything together and had to really think through things. And if anything was ever happening, anything major happening, there was a woman right in the middle of that whole thing trying to figure it out. And I know that's our cultura. And because it's looked upon through the male gaze, they don't see that. So we become invisible, right? And what I was trying to do with the Malcriada was to get people to see what has been invisible, to see us as being powerful people, as people that to be with consequences, right? With that we are part of that history, and we're a part of the future too.
Diana?
Yes, and I think it speaks to the reality, ties into the Me Too movement of what our, the way I see it, the new strength, the new voice that has been subdued by the male-dominated society in so many ways. How does San Sebastiana speak to the times with respect to the pandemic, with the political and cultural turmoil that we're experiencing today?
Well, she's very much a part of, the idea of death, right? And certainly with the pandemic, that's come knocking at our door. Mm-hmm. So in many ways, Sebastiana, Doña Sebastiana, San Sebastiana, is sitting by our deathbeds, and she's watching this. And in my mind, what she does is she kind of gives satire or a critical eye of the foolishness, and how she has to come and kind of straighten all that foolishness out. And if I were going to be doing a sequel in terms of the pandemic, she would be just howling at this point, like, yes. Really? Yeah. So you had to go to that party, right? And yes, of course you had to deliver him a kiss, but you didn't know that I was the kiss, right? That sort of thing. And I could just see her just kind of like just reeling at the stupidity of man. And our condition, and you'll hear that a lot in this short little video of Sebastiana, because I was trying to kind of like get the cuentes out, right?
Yes, yeah.
That she would just kind of start picking up on.
Well, it would be great to see a revisit, bringing it up to. You created this 2 decades ago now, right?
Oh my God, it was a long time ago. It was at a time when I, like I said, I was just really thinking about that. And it was the first film that I ever did, the first and last film I ever did, actually. But I knew that the only way of kind of really telling her story, in terms of dichos, that's one of the things that I really had fun with, was kind of like thinking about the dichos and how she would use those dichos for kind of critical analysis, so you'll hear like those dichos and all of that. And I thought the only way you can really get that out is through a film. So, I got a hold of a low-end film camera, one mic, and actually one really talented scriptwriter, Cecilio Garcia Camarillo, who wrote the script on that. And it was like, I was thinking about that story, but he really brought it to life. And in this, you can hear like this whole discussion of death. And it was at a time that Cecilio had been diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. So you can hear him kind of coming to grips with his own mortality in there. So it has a lot of different layers to it.
Well, with the personal, it always makes it more significant.
And of course, Monica Sanchez, she is just a terrific actress. And you can see that in the acting that she does, because it's basically a monologue.
Yes.
Yeah, it's basically a monologue. And so she really kind of like pushes us through the whole thing. And in this, you'll see where she becomes a doña, and then she becomes a calaca. And there's these transitions that go back and forth. That could only happen because she knew how to block herself. Because I filmed her as a doña, and then I filmed her as the calaca, and she had to hit all the marks at the same moment when she's speaking in order for me to make those transitions. Really amazing. When it was like, wow.
We'll look forward to watching it next.
Yeah.
Then.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Delilah.
Despierta, mi bien despierta, mira que amaneció, ya los pájaros cantan la luna. Comadre, ay, pobrecita de la señora Garcia at her age, y con tantos dolores, and now she's pregnant. Can you believe it? I warned her. Pero ni modo, la que juega con la lumbre, tarde o temprano se quema. Oh, she won't say who the father is. Es que it's a secret. ¿Qué secret ni qué secret? Everybody knows who her lover is. Secrets in the barrio circulate faster than money. I'm so glad I never got pregnant. What I enjoy most is just being a woman. A beautiful and seductive woman in a tight white dress with deep cleavage para que se me vean my big soft breasts. Yes, and a sensual voice para decir, oye guapo, what's your hurry? You like what you see? Yo? Me llamo Sebastiana. Doña Sebastiana. ¿Quieres bailar un bolero conmigo?
Actually, I prefer rancheras. ¿Qué óvole, doña? Te ves muy guapa.
Me asustaste, bribón.
No te asustes, mija. Relax. Remember, I am your secret admirer. Yes, you are an artista, the personification of symmetry, beauty, and perfection. Both humorous and tragic between feminine and masculine. Órale, se vale. Like a diamond in the rough, your personality has many facets and possibilities.
Wait a minute. Possibilities? If you're talking jale, forget it. I'm not for hire. I've paid my dues, yeah. Everything from barmaid to curandera. I'm done. Retired. Happily self-unemployed.
Pero, doña, what a pity you have so many latent talents. You were especially effective as a tax collector.
Tax collector? I hated that job. You'd think I was death itself. At least as a puta, people ran to me and not from me.
Well, unfortunately, taxes and death are unavoidable, which brings me to our little visit. I am here on business. I need you to bring me the souls of the deceased.
What? Me? Una vieja mediosa? You want me to hang around corners just waiting to take the... like a tax collector?
Sebastiana, death is not a period, but a comma in the story of life. And those afraid of death also fear life. Life only exists in the presence of death. Together, like twins, they dance inseparately through the universe. Neither is beautiful or ugly, panzón or flaca, good or bad, yet they are as real as the first kiss of two lovers and as distant as a vague dream.
Ya, basta con la poesía. You know that the gente really fears death. I can already hear their pathetic pleas. Ay, 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 ayúdame, Dios santo. Death is so cold and dark and evil. Not to mention it smells like rancid chicharrón.
Ooh, Sebastiana, you haven't lost your sense of drama.
Drama? Por favor, look who's talking. Sorry, viejo. That jale is not for me. Why don't you ask La Calaca or El Vato Grim Reaper to do it, huh?
Only you can give destiny both a beginning and a proper ending. As a beautiful woman who seduces the creation of life, you could remove what has been spent with subtle care. Tú eres la única. I need your humanity.
How can I be humane when I'm hated? Fíjate, Dios. Instead of fearing your will, they're gonna be afraid of me. ¿Qué onda, God? I wasn't born yesterday.
Okay, this is what I will do. So that it will be understood that death comes from me and not you, I will make you a saint. San Sebastiana, Ángel de la Muerte, my handmaiden. As Gran Equalizer, your timelessness will be just a couple of seconds faster than life. ¿De acuerdo?
San Sebastiana, Ángel de la Muerte. Does have a certain ring to it. Like I always say, if fate te tira un knife, there's two ways to catch it. By the blade, by the handle. Bueno, Dios. ¡Oiga el gallo!
Así será.
And the next song with Amalia Mondragon, again, música ranchera, La Dama, the Lady.
¿Cuántas veces le ha cantado el grillo a la luna? A falta del sol, a medianoche el ruiseñor. Gritos mudos hacia el cielo, ni Dios escucha. No hay vacío en existencia donde caber. Se desmoronan con el tiempo los granos de arena. y en montañas de pesares se han de juntar, pero no cambia la vida, mi corazón ni mi sentimiento. Qué bella tu cara, esos ojitos merecen miradas de amor, mi amada. Yo te canto mi vida, te entrego mi alma, mi corazón y mi sentimiento. Da budam te paru pai, budam te budai dam te bam dam pai, wai da bai pe bam dam pai, wai para pa pa da bai that bom. Qué bella tu cara, esos ojitos merecen miradas de amor, mi amada. Yo te canto mi vida, te entrego mi alma, mi corazón y mi sentimiento.
I'd like to share the making of a installation piece, a song on the wings of debris. So began as a concept that was inspired by these old piano keys that were being thrown away, and I just couldn't let them go, and saw wings with it. So I went to Angel Cabral's studio. He's the director of the sculpture department at the University of Texas, El Paso, with my box of piano keys, and asked him to give me some input, give me a hand, and see what we could do. So he put his thoughts to it and went into Photoshop for the drawing. And then it went to Illustrator and back to Photoshop. But this is the, taking the concept, the idea into the sketch. And then it was laser etched to steel. And then here's Angel measuring the length of the steel rods that would provide the framework. For the wings. And here are the wings, the final product. And it's an installation, as you can see. Anybody can step into it and take wing. And it's a tribute, in a sense, to the many lives that have been lost from COVID-19 and the realities that we're living through. And also just in the title, On the Wings of Debris, how we can take something that is trash and make something beautiful of it. and share the creative experience. Here's Angel Cabrales wearing the wings.
We're going to have Yavi Pichardo now perform for us. He's a farmer, a steward of the land, and he grew the cempasúchil, the marigolds that are there on the altar behind Diana. He's trained in music and is a valued member in the Chamizal community of El Paso, Texas, with son tradicional, traditional music from Mexico, Pájaro Cú. Diana, tell us about your background, the altar behind you. How did you create that? How did you start to build this ofrenda, this offering, with the marigolds, the cempasúchil?
Well, I did it with the help of my friend and Juntos artist, Chris Grijalva Garcia. And again, these are the different elements: the papel picado, wheat, salt, water, candles, images, and goodies, items that are reminiscent of our ancestors. I went to visit Yavi Pichardo's garden, and that's where I brought home buckets of samalpuchil, fresh from the picking, and then laid out my space here between the kitchen and a long table, setting up the layers. Usually ofrendas are built in on multiple levels. Laid out the sarape and the particular items, the flower arrangements, el pan dulce. Can't leave out the pan dulce.
Well, you started off with your grandfather's picture first?
I did. Angel Cerecedes. There he is in the pictured on the one of the shelves there, and my great grandmother. So my great grandmother Francisca Jaques. Here's a picture of my grandparents, both Angel and Elvira Cerecedes, and Felix and Maria Molina. So both sides of the family. A bottle of tequila. Both of my grandfathers certainly enjoyed a shot of tequila. And there's a container with the salt and the water. And also images of my treasured pets that have passed on. Angel, Luna in the snow, Angelo, and this is who we commemorate. This is who we commemorate with song, with altar, those beloved family and beloved pets and whatever it is that we want to honor in our lives.
And now Yavi Pichardo is going to perform another song, traditional music from Mexico, Las Poblanas, the women from Pueblo, Mexico.
Se visten
now we come to the conclusion of our program. I want to begin by thanking you, Emily, for your participation in this effort. My production, being part of the production team with David DeWitt. And this image is called Dance of Three Powers. It is a painting by Mark Clark. And it is his own, I should say, coping mechanism, his own processing, his own remembrance of a friend who lost a battle with addiction. And so here's the calavera, the devil and the angel, and depicting that struggle, that dance, so to speak. And it is an artwork that is included in the Sacred and Profane of the Icons and Symbols of the Borderland book. So I invite all of you audience members to follow Juntos Art Association and look at the book. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you again, Diana Molina.